My fiance's ex posed as our wedding planner, stole $23K, and sent fake messages to every vendor so they'd refuse to work with us. We'd been engaged for 8 months when our wedding planner stopped answering her phone. My fiance Brooke and I had hired Margot 4 months earlier after a friend recommended her, paid her company deposits for everything from the venue to the caterer, and watched her send us polished mood boards and timeline spreadsheets that made the whole thing feel like it was actually going to happen. Then the venue called on a Tuesday morning and told us they'd canceled our reservation for non-payment. I called Margot 6 times that day. Every call went to voicemail. I texted. Nothing. Brooke tried emailing. Silence. I told myself there had to be an explanation. Maybe the venue made a mistake. Maybe Margot's phone died. I looked up the business address on her website and plugged it into my GPS. The address led me to a strip mall 20 minutes outside the city. I parked in front of the unit number and stared at a UPS store. Not an office next to a UPS store. The UPS store itself. I walked inside and asked the clerk if there was a wedding planning business operating out of this location. She looked at me like I'd asked if they sold cars. "We rent mailboxes," she said. I stood there holding my phone with Margot's business card pulled up on the screen. The address matched. I asked if they had a mailbox under the business name Enchanted Events. She checked her system and nodded. "Mailbox 217, but we can't give out information about the renter." I drove home with my hands locked on the wheel. Brooke was sitting at the kitchen table with her laptop open when I walked in. She looked up and asked what the office was like. "It's a mailbox," I said. Her face went blank. "What do you mean?" "The address on her website. It's a UPS store mailbox. There's no office. There's nothing." She pulled up our bank statements and started scrolling. We'd paid Margot in 4 installments over 4 months. Venue deposit, caterer deposit, florist, photographer. The total came to $23,000, all of it paid to Enchanted Events LLC through a business checking account Margot had set up. Brooke's hands started shaking. She opened her email and found the last message from Margot, sent 3 days earlier, confirming that everything was on track for the wedding in 6 weeks. I called the caterer. They told me they'd never received a deposit and had no record of our wedding date being booked. I called the florist. Same story. I called the photographer. She said Margot had reached out months ago to ask about availability, but never followed up with a contract or payment. Brooke stared at the screen and whispered, "She took all of it." My phone buzzed. An email from Margot's business address. The subject line said, "Regarding your event." I opened it. The message was 2 paragraphs long. Margot wrote that she was disappointed to inform us that multiple vendors had backed out due to our behavior as clients. She said we'd been difficult to work with, made unreasonable demands, and created a hostile environment that left her no choice but to step away from the project. She wrote that she understood we were upset, but this was the result of our own actions. She wished us well and said she would not be responding to further contact. I read it twice. Brooke read it over my shoulder and made a sound I'd never heard her make before. I tried calling Margot again. The number was disconnected. Brooke's parents showed up that evening because Brooke had called her mom crying. Her father stood in our living room and asked how I'd vetted this person. I told him she'd come recommended by a mutual friend, had a professional website, sent us contracts, and responded to every email for 4 months. He asked if I had copies of the contracts. I pulled up my email. The attachments wouldn't open. The links were dead. Her mother asked if we had any physical paperwork, any receipts beyond bank transfers. We didn't. I sat on the couch and stared at the wedding date circled on our calendar. 6 weeks away. No venue, no caterer, no flowers, $23,000 gone. Brooke's mother made tea nobody drank. Her father paced between the kitchen and the living room, asking the same questions in different ways. How did we find this person? What references did we check? Why didn't we visit the office before signing anything? I told him we didn't sign anything. The contracts she sent were PDFs. They looked real. They had terms and payment schedules and a business registration number at the bottom. "You didn't think to verify the registration number?" he asked. I hadn't. Brooke started crying again and her mother put an arm around her shoulders. "Maybe this is a sign," Brooke said. Her voice was barely audible. "Maybe we're not supposed to get married. Maybe we rushed this." I sat down next to her. We didn't rush anything. We got engaged after a year. We planned a wedding in 8 months. We hired someone we didn't know and gave her $23,000. Her father stopped pacing. "You're not canceling the wedding. You're fixing this." I didn't know how to fix it. I pulled up the vendor list Margot had sent us months ago and started making calls. The first venue on the list told me they had no record of our names in their system. The woman on the phone sounded confused when I explained that our planner had booked them for October. "We don't take bookings through third parties," she said. "Couples have to contact us directly." I called the second venue. They said the same thing. The third venue recognized Margot's name. The coordinator's voice went flat when I mentioned Enchanted Events. "She contacted us about your date," the coordinator said. "She sent a deposit check that bounced. We reached out 3 times to resolve it and never heard back. We canceled the hold 2 weeks ago. She told us everything was confirmed." "I'm sorry, it wasn't." I kept calling. The bakery said Margot had requested a quote but never followed up. The DJ said she'd asked about availability and then stopped responding to emails. The rental company said she'd placed an order for tables and chairs, paid half up front with a check that cleared, and then canceled everything a week later claiming the wedding was off. "Did she get a refund?" I asked. "Yes, we sent it to the business account she provided." I hung up and called the officiant Margot had supposedly hired. He told me he'd never heard of her or us. Brooke's father asked what we were finding out. I told him half the vendors were never booked, a quarter got partial payments that disappeared, and the rest were told we canceled. "Told you canceled?" "That's what the rental company said. Margot told them the wedding was off because we changed our minds." Brooke's mother pulled out her phone. "I'm calling Richard." Richard was Brooke's uncle. He was a lawyer. He listened to the whole story on speaker and told us to file a police report immediately. I drove to the station that night. The officer behind the desk took notes while I explained everything. When I finished, he asked if I had a signed contract. No. She sent PDFs, but we didn't print them, and now the files won't open. Do you have receipts showing what the payments were for? The bank transfers just say Enchanted Events LLC. He clicked his pen a few times. Did she ever explicitly promise to book these vendors? She sent us emails confirming everything was set. Do the emails specifically say she made deposits on your behalf? I pulled up my phone and scrolled through the messages. Margot's emails were vague. She used phrases like coordinating with the venue and finalizing arrangements, and everything is on track. None of them said she'd personally paid anyone. The officer leaned back in his chair. Without a contract or clear proof she promised specific services, this looks like a civil dispute. You'd need to sue her for breach of contract or fraud, but that's not a criminal case unless we can prove intent to defraud from the beginning. She stole $23,000. You paid her $23,000. There's a difference. If she can argue she provided planning services and vendors backed out for reasons beyond her control, it's your word against hers. I asked what we were supposed to do. You can file a report. I'll write it up. But unless you can prove the business was fake from the start or she used a false identity, the DA probably won't take it. I filed the report anyway. He gave me a case number and told me to contact our bank about chargebacks. I called the bank the next morning. They told me the transactions were too old. Their fraud protection window was 60 days. The last payment to Margot went through 93 days ago. My parents came over that afternoon. My mother hugged Brooke. My father asked how this happened. I told him a friend recommended her. What friend? Liam, he's the one who connected us. My father's jaw tightened. Call him right now. I called Liam. It went to voicemail. I texted him asking him to call me back. He didn't respond. I tried again an hour later. No answer. Brooke looked at me from the couch. He's not picking up? No. He recommended her. He has to know something. I sent another text. I need to talk to you about Margot. It's urgent. 3 hours passed. Nothing. My father said, try his wife. I didn't have her number. Brooke did. She called and put it on speaker. Liam's wife answered on the second ring. Her voice was tight. Brooke, hi. Is Liam there? We really need to talk to him. He's not available right now. It's about the wedding planner he recommended. She took our money and disappeared. We just need to ask him how he knew her. There was a long pause. I'll have him call you. She hung up. Liam never called. Brooke's family came over for dinner 3 days later. Her mother set plates on the table while her father asked if we'd heard anything from the police. I told him the detective assigned to our case said they'd look into it, but the officer who took the report had already warned us it would be hard to prove criminal intent. Brooke's mother placed a serving dish in the center of the table. Have you thought about postponing? Brooke looked up. Postponing what? The wedding. Until you can afford to do it properly. I opened my mouth. Nothing came out. Mom, we're not postponing. Sweetheart, you don't have a venue. You don't have vendors. You'd be starting from scratch with 6 weeks to plan and no money to do it with. We'll figure it out. Her mother sat down and folded her hands. I'm not saying cancel. I'm saying give yourselves time. Have a long engagement. Save up again. Do it right. Brooke's father cut his chicken. Your mother has a point. Rushing into this now just compounds the problem. We're not rushing into anything, I said. We've been engaged for 8 months. We had everything planned. Someone stole it. And whose job was it to make sure that person was legitimate? Brooke stood up. Stop! Her father looked at her. I'm trying to help. You're blaming him. You've been blaming him since this happened. I'm asking how a grown man hands over $23,000 to someone he never met in person. I pushed my chair back. She had a website, she had contracts, she had references. Fake references. I didn't know they were fake. Brooke left the table. Her mother followed her into the hallway. I heard low voices, then Brooke's door closing. Her father finished his meal in silence. When he left, he shook my hand without looking at me. Brooke didn't come back out. I knocked on the bedroom door an hour later. She told me she needed space. She slept in the guest room that night, and the next night, and the night after that. I texted Liam again. I know you're avoiding me. I need to know how you knew Margot. He responded 2 hours later. I didn't know her well. I saw her business online and thought it looked legit. I'm sorry. You recommended her specifically. You said she was great. I saw good reviews. I thought she'd be a safe choice. I called him. It rang 4 times before he picked up. Liam, you told us she planned your cousin's wedding. I might have mixed that up. Mixed it up? I don't know. I saw her page and it looked professional. I thought I was helping. You lied to us. I didn't lie. I just didn't remember all the details. What details? His voice changed. It got quieter. I knew her real name was Adriana. I didn't think it mattered. I stopped moving. What? Her business name was Margot, but her real name is Adriana. I thought she just used a business name. A lot of people do that. Adriana who? I don't know her last name. How do you know her? I met her at a party a few years ago. She mentioned she did wedding planning. When you guys got engaged, I remembered and looked her up. Did you know she dated Brooke? He didn't answer. Liam, did you know Adriana dated Brooke? I didn't think it was the same person. You just said you knew her real name was Adriana. I didn't connect it until after you hired her. Then I thought maybe I was wrong. I didn't want to cause problems if I was wrong. You didn't want to cause problems. I'm sorry, I didn't think she'd do something like this. You knew it was Brooke's ex and you said nothing. He hung up. I called back. It went straight to voicemail. I tried texting. The message turned green. He'd blocked me. I walked into the guest room. Brooke was sitting on the bed with her laptop closed. Did you date someone named Adriana? She looked at me like I'd just told her the house was on fire. What? Liam just told me Margot's real name is Adriana. He said he knew she dated you and he didn't say anything. Her face went white. She stood up, sat back down, then stood up again. Brooke. Adriana Castellano. I dated her 5 years ago for 6 months. Why didn't you recognize her? I never met Margot in person. We only talked on the phone and through email. Her voice sounded different. I thought it was just a weird coincidence that her business name was similar to someone I used to know. Similar how? Adriana used to call herself Margot sometimes. It was a nickname. I thought it was just a weird coincidence when I saw the business name. I didn't think it was actually her. You didn't think to mention this? I didn't think it was her. The website looked professional. The emails sounded nothing like her. I thought I was being paranoid. I sat down on the bed. What was she like? Brooke wrapped her arms around herself. Controlling. Obsessive. When I broke up with her, she sent me 50 texts in one night. She showed up at my apartment. She called my friends and told them I was unstable. She tried to get me fired by calling my boss and saying I'd stolen from her. Did she? No, my boss knew it was fake, but she tried. And you didn't think to warn me when you saw her business name? I didn't think it was her. I thought I was imagining things. We hadn't spoken in 5 years. Why would she suddenly come back and pretend to be a wedding planner? To do exactly this. She started crying. Not the kind of crying that stops. The kind that doesn't. This is my fault, she said. I should have known. I should have recognized something. Her writing style, her tone, something. You didn't know. I knew her name. I saw Margot and I thought about Adriana, and I told myself I was being ridiculous. I ignored it because I didn't want to be the person who sees their ex everywhere. And now we've lost everything because I didn't trust my instincts. I tried to put my arm around her. She pulled away. I need to be alone. I left the room. I called a consumer protection lawyer the next morning. The receptionist transferred me to an attorney named Gerald, who listened to the whole story and asked if we had a signed contract. No, just emails. Do the emails explicitly outline services and deliverables? They confirm dates and vendors. They don't have a service breakdown. Without a written contract, this is a fraud case, not a breach of contract case. Fraud is harder to prove and more expensive to pursue. You'd need to demonstrate that she intended to defraud you from the beginning, which means subpoenaing records, deposing witnesses, and building a timeline of deception. That costs money. How much? 15 to 20,000 minimum. And if you win, you'd need to collect. If the business bank account is empty, you're chasing a judgment you can't enforce. So we just lose the money. You can file a police report and hope the DA picks it up. You can file a civil suit and hope she has assets. Or you can walk away. I thanked him and hung up. Brooke was standing in the doorway. What did he say? He said it'll cost more to fight than we lost. She nodded. She didn't look surprised. She looked like she'd already known. I'm sorry, she said. For what? For bringing her into our lives. Even if I didn't know it was her, she's here because of me. She's here because she's a criminal. She's here because I dated her. Because I didn't end things cleanly enough. Because she still hates me. That's not how this works. She walked back into the guest room and closed the door. I posted on a local wedding forum that night. I didn't use names. I wrote that we'd hired a planner who took our deposits and disappeared, attached screenshots of the UPS store address, and Margot's final email blaming us for vendor cancellations, and warned other couples to verify business addresses before paying anyone. The post got 3 responses in the first hour. By morning, it had 20. People started tagging similar stories. Someone linked to Enchanted Events and said the reviews looked fake. Another user said they'd noticed the same planner advertising in multiple cities under slightly different business names. By noon, half the reviews on Margot's page were flagged. By evening, the page was gone. I thought that meant something. I thought taking down her fake front would force her into the open or at least stop her from doing this to someone else. The next morning, I got an email from a florist I'd contacted 3 days earlier. The subject line said, "Regarding your inquiry." I opened it. The florist wrote that she'd been contacted by our former planner, who informed her that we were attempting to harass and defame her after she'd terminated our contract due to our threatening behavior. The florist said she couldn't work with clients involved in ongoing disputes and wished us well. I called her. She didn't pick up. I tried the bakery I'd reached out to the week before. The woman who answered said she'd received a similar message and didn't feel comfortable moving forward. What message? I asked. From your planner. She said you've been stalking her and posting lies online. She sent screenshots of threatening texts. I never texted her. I called her number and it was disconnected. I don't want to get involved, I'm sorry. She hung up. I opened my email and searched for every vendor I'd contacted in the past 2 weeks. 11 of them. I started calling. 3 didn't answer. 2 said they'd already booked the date. 4 said they'd been warned about us and couldn't take the risk. 1 forwarded me the email Adriana had sent. The message was 3 paragraphs long. She wrote that she'd terminated our contract after we became verbally abusive during planning meetings, refused to pay agreed-upon fees, and began stalking her online and in person. She said I had a history of financial abuse and that Brooke was mentally unwell and prone to fabricating stories when things didn't go her way. She warned the vendor that we would likely blame them for any issues and encouraged them to decline our business for their own safety. At the bottom, she'd attached a screenshot of a text thread. The messages showed someone with my name sending her threats. The timestamps were from last week. I'd never sent those texts. I didn't have her real number. The thread was fake. I forwarded it to Brooke. She called me 2 minutes later. This isn't real. I know. She made this. She faked your number and created a fake conversation. I know. How do we prove that? I didn't have an answer. Brooke's family came over that Saturday. Her parents, her Uncle Richard, her aunt, and her younger sister. They sat in our living room while I explained what Adriana had done in the past week. Richard leaned forward. She's trying to isolate you. If she can make sure no vendor will work with you, she controls the narrative. You can't rebuild without her looking like the victim. Brooke's father crossed his arms. Maybe rebuilding isn't the right move. Brooke looked at him. What does that mean? I mean, maybe you need to step back, take a break, let things cool down. You mean call off the wedding? I mean, take time. This has been a disaster from the start. You're stressed, you're fighting, you've lost a huge amount of money, and now this woman is actively sabotaging you. Maybe that's a sign. Brooke's mother touched her husband's arm. We're not saying break up, we're saying postpone. For how long? Brooke asked. Until you're in a better place, financially, emotionally. We're fine emotionally. Her father's voice hardened. You've been sleeping in separate rooms for a week. Because this is stressful. Not because we don't want to get married. Richard cleared his throat. Have you considered that continuing this wedding under these circumstances might do more harm than good? You're going to be fighting this woman for months. You're going to be in court, dealing with police, chasing restitution. You'll be broke and exhausted. Is that how you want to start a marriage? I opened my mouth. Brooke's sister spoke first. You're telling them to let her win. Richard looked at her. I'm telling them to protect themselves.
She stole their money and trashed their reputations, and now you're saying they should just give up and prove her right.
I'm saying they should make a rational decision instead of an emotional one. They're getting married. That's not irrational. That's the whole point. Brooke's father stood up. This isn't a debate. We're trying to help. You're trying to get them to cancel, her sister said. Because it's embarrassing. Because your friends are asking questions and you don't know what to say. That's enough. You told Mom's book club they were postponing. You already decided for them. He didn't deny it. Brooke stared at him. You told people we're postponing? I told them we were reevaluating. I didn't want them asking questions I couldn't answer. It's not your wedding. It's my money too, or it was until you handed it to a con artist. Brooke stood up. Get out. Her mother reached for her hand. Sweetheart, he didn't mean that. Yes, he did. Get out, all of you. Richard tried to speak. Brooke pointed at the door. They left. Her sister stayed. She sat on the couch next to Brooke and didn't say anything for a long time. Finally, she asked, what do you want to do? Brooke's voice was barely above a whisper. I don't know. Do you want to marry him? Yes. Then do it. Don't let her take that too. Brooke looked at me. Her eyes were red. What if no one will work with us? What if she's poisoned every vendor in the city? Then we do it ourselves, her sister said. City Hall, a restaurant, your backyard. I don't care, but you don't let her decide this. My mother called that night. She was crying before I even said hello. I told everyone, she said. I told my friends at church. I told the ladies from my yoga class. I booked a flight. I bought a dress. And now people are asking me what happened, and I don't know what to say. Mom, we're still getting married. Your father said you lost all the deposits. He said the planner was a fraud. He said Brooke's family thinks you should postpone. We're not postponing. But how are you going to do it? You don't have anything. You don't have a venue or flowers or a photographer. People are going to think you can't afford a real wedding. They're going to think you're irresponsible. I don't care what they think. I care. I care because I have to face them. I have to explain why my son's wedding fell apart 6 weeks before it was supposed to happen. I have to listen to them whisper that maybe you rushed into this. Maybe you picked the wrong person. Maybe you're not ready. I am ready. Then prove it. Fix this. Show people you can handle it. She hung up. I sat on the couch. Brooke came out of the guest room and sat next to me. She didn't ask what my mother had said. She didn't need to. She's winning, Brooke said. No, she's not. She took our money. She destroyed our reputations. She turned our families against us. She made it so no one will work with us. What part of that isn't winning? We're still here. Barely. We're still getting married. She looked at me. Her face was exhausted. Are we? Because right now it feels like we're just surviving. Like we're holding on because we're too stubborn to let go. And I don't know if that's enough. It's enough for me. What if we get the money back and we still can't fix this? What if every vendor in this city believes her story? What if we spend the next year fighting her and we lose anyway? Then we lose, but we lose together. She leaned against me. I put my arm around her and felt her breathing slow. I'm scared, she said. Me too. I'm scared that even if we win, no one will believe us. That we'll always be the couple who got scammed because we were careless. That every time someone hears our story, they'll wonder what we did wrong. We didn't do anything wrong. I know, but that doesn't matter. She's already written the story, and her version is louder than ours. I hired a private investigator on Monday morning. His name was Calvin Reed. He worked out of a one-room office above a dry cleaner and charged $150 an hour. I told him everything. He took notes on a yellow legal pad and asked if I had bank records showing the payments to Enchanted Events. I sent him screenshots of every transaction. He said he'd start with the business account and work backward. If she's done this before, there'll be a trail, he said. People like this don't stop at one. 3 days later, he called. The business account is registered to Adriana Castellano. She opened it 4 months before you hired her. The address on file is a residential property in Maplewood. I pulled property records. She rents. I pulled utility records. They match. What about the business registration? Enchanted Events LLC was filed with the state 6 months ago. The registered agent is Adriana Castellano. The business address listed on the filing is the UPS store mailbox. The state doesn't verify physical locations. They just process the paperwork. Is that legal? It's legal to use a mailbox as a business address. It's not legal to commit fraud, but the state doesn't check what you're actually doing with the business once it's registered. What else did you find? I traced the IP addresses on the reviews for her website. 4 of them came from her home address. 2 came from a coffee shop 3 blocks from her apartment. The rest are VPN masked, but the language patterns match. She wrote her own reviews. Can you prove that? I can show that the same IP address posted reviews under different names on the same day within minutes of each other. That's enough to establish a pattern. What about other states? He flipped a page. She ran a similar business in Nevada 2 years ago under the name Bella Rose Events. Different LLC, same structure. Registered agent was Adriana Castellano. That business folded after 8 months. I found 3 complaints filed with the Nevada Attorney General's office. All 3 described the same thing you experienced. Deposits paid, services never delivered, vendors never contacted. No charges were filed because the complainants couldn't prove intent to defraud. She did this before, and before that. I found another LLC in Oregon 4 years ago. Different name, same pattern. That one folded after 5 months. 2 complaints filed, no charges. How is she still doing this? Because she moves. She changes names. She sets up shop in a new state, runs the scam for a few months, shuts down the LLC, and disappears before anyone can build a case. By the time people figure out what happened, the business is gone and she's operating somewhere else under a new name. I asked him to send me everything. He said he'd have a full report by the end of the week. I called the police station and asked for the detective assigned to our case. His name was Morris. He called me back 2 hours later. I got your message. What do you have? A private investigator traced the business account to Adriana Castellano. She used fake reviews, ran similar scams in 2 other states, and the business registration lists a mailbox as the address. She opened the account 4 months before we hired her. This wasn't negligence. This was planned. Can you send me the report? I emailed it to him. He called back the next day. This is good. I can work with this. The business registration using a fake address is enough to establish fraudulent intent. The prior complaints in other states show a pattern. I'm going to reopen this as a fraud case and get a warrant for her financial records. What happens next? I subpoena her bank statements. I contact the victims in Nevada and Oregon. If their stories match yours, we have a pattern of behavior. If her account shows deposits from multiple victims around the same time, we have evidence of ongoing fraud. That's enough to arrest her. How long does that take? 2 to 3 weeks, depending on how fast the banks respond. I thanked him and hung up. Brooke was sitting at the kitchen table. She looked at me and asked what the detective said. He's reopening the case. He thinks he can arrest her. She nodded. She didn't smile. She looked like she was too tired to believe it yet. I pulled up the vendor list Calvin had included in his report. He'd identified 11 vendors Adriana had contacted in the past 2 weeks to warn them about us. I started calling. The first florist didn't answer. I left a voicemail with my name and asked her to call me back. The second vendor was a photographer named Rachel. She picked up on the third ring. This is Rachel. Hi, my name is Jordan. You were contacted by a wedding planner named Margot about me and my fiancé. She told you we were threatening her. I'm calling to let you know that was a lie. Her real name is Adriana Castellano. She's a con artist. She stole $23,000 from us and she's been running the same scam in multiple states for years. I have a private investigator's report that proves it. I can send it to you if you're willing to look at it. Rachel was quiet for a moment. Send it. I emailed her the report. She called me back 20 minutes later. I believed her, she said. I'm sorry. The email she sent sounded legitimate. The screenshots looked real. They were fake. She faked my number and created a fake conversation. I know, I just read the report. This is insane. If you have any emails from her, I'd appreciate it if you could forward them to the detective handling the case. His contact information is in the report. I'll send them today. I called 3 more vendors. 2 of them agreed to forward their emails. The third told me she'd already sent everything to the police after reading a forum post about enchanted events. The detective called me 4 days later. His voice sounded different, sharper. I got the emails from your vendors. 3 of them forwarded threads where Adriana explicitly described her plan. What plan? To sabotage your wedding. One of the florists forwarded an email where Adriana wrote that she wanted to destroy your perfect day the way your fiancé destroyed her life. She said Brooke left her 5 years ago and she'd been waiting for the right moment to get even. She wrote that planning your wedding was the perfect setup because you'd trust her completely, and by the time you figured it out, it would be too late to fix it. I couldn't speak. She wrote this to a vendor? She wrote it to someone she thought was a vendor. Turns out the email address belonged to a blog that covers wedding scams. The blogger posed as a florist to see if Adriana would slip up. She did. What does this mean? It means we have motive, intent, and a confession. I'm getting a warrant for her arrest today. Fraud and identity theft. She used false business documents to open vendor accounts, and she admitted to targeting you specifically as an act of revenge. That's enough. He paused. I'll call you when we bring her in. I hung up and walked into the guest room. Brooke was lying on the bed staring at the ceiling. They're arresting her, I said. She sat up. When? Soon. The detective has a warrant. She admitted everything in an email. She said she wanted to destroy our wedding as revenge for you leaving her. Brooke's face went pale. She said that? She wrote it to someone she thought was a vendor. She said she'd been waiting 5 years for the right moment. Brooke stood up and walked to the window. She didn't say anything for a long time. I keep thinking about the wedding, she said. The one we planned. The venue with the string lights. The garden ceremony. The reception with 200 people. I keep thinking about how excited I was. How perfect it seemed. We can still do it. She turned around. Can we? Even if we get the money back, we have 5 weeks. Every vendor in the city has heard her version. Our families think we're a disaster. Your mother is embarrassed. My father thinks you're incompetent. Our friends don't know what to believe. And even if we found people willing to work with us, I'd spend the entire day wondering if she's watching, if she's found some other way to ruin it, if she's sitting somewhere laughing because we're still trying to salvage something she poisoned from the beginning. So what do you want to do? She sat down on the bed. I want to cancel it. All of it. The venue we never had. The vendors who won't work with us. The 200-person reception we can't afford. I want to cancel the wedding she planned and do something she never touched. Something that's ours. Just ours. Like what? I don't know. City Hall. A restaurant. Our backyard. Somewhere small. Somewhere she doesn't know about. Somewhere we can actually be happy instead of constantly looking over our shoulders waiting for the next thing to fall apart. I sat down next to her. You're sure? I'm sure I don't want to spend our wedding day thinking about her. I'm sure I don't want 200 people who spent the last month wondering if we're frauds or victims or just careless. I'm sure I don't want to prove anything to anyone except you. Okay. Okay? We'll cancel everything. We'll do it our way. And when the restitution comes through, we'll use it for something that's actually ours. Not the wedding she stole. Something new. She leaned against me. I love you. I love you too. Even though I brought her into our lives, you didn't bring her in. She forced her way in, and we're forcing her out. The detective called 3 days later. We arrested Adriana Castellano this morning. She's being charged with fraud, identity theft, and theft by deception. Bail is set at $50,000. She's still in custody. What happens now? Arraignment is next week. After that, it goes to trial unless she takes a plea. Either way, the court will order restitution as part of the sentencing. You'll get your money back. It might take time, but you'll get it. I thanked him. I called Brooke. She answered on the first ring. They arrested her. She exhaled. It sounded like she'd been holding her breath for weeks. Is it over? Not yet, but it's starting to be. The detective called me at 7 in the morning. I was in the kitchen making coffee when my phone buzzed. We executed a search warrant on her apartment yesterday, he said. We found some things you should know about. I set the mug down. What did you find? Files. Physical files in a cabinet in her bedroom. Screenshots of your engagement photos. Vendor contracts she never planned to honor. emails she drafted and never sent, and a journal. A journal? Handwritten. Dated entries starting 6 months ago. She wrote about seeing Brooke's engagement announcement online. She wrote about how angry it made her, how Brooke moved on like nothing happened, how she needed to make Brooke feel what she felt when Brooke left her. She wrote that planning your wedding was perfect because you'd trust her completely and she'd have access to everything. She wrote that she wanted to watch it all fall apart. My chest felt tight. She wrote that down? Every detail. Dates, amounts, which vendors she contacted, which lies she told. She documented the whole thing like she was proud of it. Can you use it? It's evidence. It proves intent and motive. Her lawyer's going to have a hard time arguing this was a misunderstanding. I thanked him and hung up. Brooke was standing in the doorway. They found proof, I said. What kind of proof? A journal. She wrote about planning this, about wanting to destroy the wedding because you left her 5 years ago. She kept records of everything she did. Brooke sat down at the table. She didn't look relieved. She looked like she'd just realized how close we'd come to something much worse. She documented it, Brooke said, like it was a project. Yeah. What kind of person does that? I didn't have an answer. The prosecutor called me 2 days later. Her name was Amanda Kerrigan. She told me Adriana's lawyer had reached out about a plea deal. What kind of deal? I asked. Guilty plea to fraud and identity theft. Full restitution of $23,000 plus court fees. 2 years probation. Community service. And she's banned from operating any business in the state for 5 years. No jail time? She'd get probation instead. If she violates the terms, she goes to jail. But if she complies, she stays out. Why would you offer that? Because trials are expensive and unpredictable. A plea deal guarantees restitution and a conviction. If we go to trial and lose, you get nothing. If we win, it could take years to collect. This way, you get your money back within 6 months and she has a record. What if she doesn't pay? Then she violates probation and goes to jail. The restitution is court-ordered. She doesn't have a choice. Does she accept? Her lawyer says she will. We're finalizing the terms today. The hearing is scheduled for next week. I asked if I needed to be there. She said I could attend but didn't have to. I told her I'd be there. Brooke didn't want to go. I don't want to see her, she said. I don't want to hear her voice. I don't want to give her the satisfaction of knowing she got to me. You don't have to come. Do you want me there? I want you to do what feels right. She came anyway. We sat in the back of the courtroom while the judge reviewed the plea agreement. Adriana stood at the defendant's table in a gray suit. Her lawyer stood next to her. She didn't turn around. The judge asked if she understood the terms. She said yes. The judge asked if she was pleading guilty voluntarily. She said yes. The judge asked if she had anything to say. Her lawyer stepped forward. Your Honor, my client deeply regrets her actions. She acknowledges the harm she caused and takes full responsibility. She's committed to making restitution and moving forward in a positive direction. The words sounded rehearsed. Adriana stood with her hands folded in front of her. She didn't look at us. She didn't look sorry. She looked like someone waiting for it to be over. The judge accepted the plea. He ordered restitution of $23,000 plus $1,500 in court fees, payable in monthly installments over 18 months. He sentenced her to 2 years probation and 100 hours of community service. He banned her from operating any business in the state for 5 years. Adriana signed the paperwork. Her lawyer collected the documents. The bailiff let her out through a side door. She never looked back. Brooke and I walked out of the courthouse into the parking lot. She didn't say anything until we got to the car. That's it? She asked. That's it. She just signs some papers and walks away. She has to pay us back. She's on probation. She can't run another business here. But she's not in jail. She's not punished. She just has to follow some rules for 2 years and then she's free. She has a record. She'll have to explain this every time she applies for a job or tries to rent an apartment. It's not nothing. It feels like nothing. I didn't argue. It did feel like nothing. Like we'd been through 6 weeks of chaos and humiliation and financial ruin, and all we got was a signature on a piece of paper. 3 vendors called me over the next week. The first was Rachel, the photographer. She said she'd read the investigator's report and felt terrible about believing Adriana's story. She offered to shoot our wedding for free. I thanked her and told her we'd canceled the big wedding. You're not getting married? We're getting married. Just not the way we planned. We're doing something small. Something private. I understand. But if you change your mind, the offer stands. The second vendor was a florist named Denise. She said she'd forward Adriana's emails to the police and wanted to apologize for doubting us. She offered a 50% discount on any future event. I told her the same thing I'd told Rachel. We weren't doing a big event, we were keeping it small. The third vendor was the DJ Adriana had contacted in week 2. He didn't apologize. He just said he'd heard what happened and wanted us to know he'd be willing to work with us if we needed him. I thanked him and hung up. Brooke asked who'd called. I told her. She shook her head. They want to help now, after everything. They didn't know. They believed her without asking. They took screenshots she faked and decided we were the problem. And now they want to make it right by giving us a discount. We don't have to use them. I don't want to. I don't want anyone who heard her version to be part of this. I don't want to spend our wedding day wondering if the florist or the photographer or the DJ is thinking about the drama. I don't want any of it. Then we won't. She looked at me. You're okay with that? No reception, no big event, just us and a few people at City Hall. I'm okay with it. Your mom won't be. My mom will get over it. We got married 3 weeks later on a Thursday morning. Brooke wore a white dress she bought online. I wore a suit I already owned. We went to City Hall with my best friend, Brooke's sister, and both sets of parents. My mother cried. Brooke's mother hugged her for a long time. Brooke's father shook my hand and told me he was sorry for doubting me. My father clapped me on the shoulder and said he was proud. The ceremony took 10 minutes. The officiant read the vows. We said I do. He pronounced us married. Brooke kissed me, and her sister cheered. We went to lunch at a restaurant downtown. 8 of us around a table. No speeches, no toasts. Just food and conversation and Brooke's hand in mine. Brooke's extended family didn't come. The aunts and uncles and cousins who'd whispered about my judgment and Brooke's instability sent cards with apologies written in careful handwriting. Some of them included checks. We deposited the checks and filed the cards in a drawer. Liam sent a message 2 weeks after the wedding. He wrote that he was sorry for introducing us to Adriana, sorry for not telling us the truth when he realized who she was, sorry for avoiding us when things fell apart. He said he understood if we didn't want to talk to him again, but he wanted us to know he felt terrible. Brooke read the message and deleted it without responding. The restitution started arriving 4 months later. Monthly payments of $1,278 deposited directly into our account. It took 18 months to get it all back. By the time the final payment cleared, we'd saved enough on our own to book a honeymoon. We went to Portugal. 2 weeks. No planner, no itinerary someone else built. We researched hotels and booked flights and planned every day ourselves. Brooke picked the restaurants. I picked the tours. We spent 2 weeks walking through Lisbon and Porto and small coastal towns where no one knew our story. Adriana's business page disappeared 6 months after the hearing. The website went dark. The fake reviews vanished. But the name still shows up sometimes. Someone posted about enchanted events on a wedding forum last year. They warned other couples to avoid the planner, attached screenshots of the UPS store address, and linked to a news article about the fraud case. Someone else replied that they'd almost hired her 2 years ago and dodged a nightmare. Every few months, another post appears. Another warning. Another couple who searched the name and found the story. Each one is a reminder that she tried to destroy something she had no right to touch, that she spent months planning our humiliation and documenting it like a project, that she wanted us to fall apart and prove her right. We didn't fall apart. We got married at City Hall with 8 people who loved us. We used her restitution money to take a trip we planned ourselves. And every time someone warns others about that planner's name, it's proof that the one thing she couldn't steal was the fact that we're still here. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and drop your favorite part in the comments. See you in the next one.